entertaining talking sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to dive into the Week 6 matchup between the Washington football team and the New York Giants. Before I get started, just want to let everybody know I will be live on Bad Dog Sports tonight at about 10 p.m. I think that's usually when we do it. In addition to that, I'll have my weekly picks up, and I got to give away a fitted hat for whoever had the most picks right. I didn't even get an opportunity to look at it yet with last week's contest. So hopefully I get to see some of you guys over there for that, as I'll be premiering my Week 6 picks. I actually did pretty good last week. I think I went like 9-3. But in this video, we're going to jump into the New York Giants versus the Washington football team. Should be a competitive game between two lousy football teams. That's basically the best way to sum this up, and these two teams have been lousy for quite some time. It's why we've been picking at the top end of the draft. It's why we both selected what we hoped would be a new franchise quarterback just 2 years ago with Dwayne Haskins and Daniel Jones. And the year after, the New York Giants ended up beating Washington in what many considered the Tank Bowl, where Washington ended up with Chase Young. Well, both teams have new coaches. Both teams have completely new coaching staffs, and both teams haven't won since Week 1. Washington started off pretty promising after they were able to come back and beat the Philadelphia Eagles 27-17, but since then, they've given up 30 points or more each of the last 4 contests. They've lost by 14 points or more each of the last 4 contests. They played the Rams last week. They lost 30-10. The same team the Giants played the week before, who we actually had a chance to beat. So, to me, going into this game, there's no excuses for the New York Giants not to win this football game. When you looked at the schedule at the beginning of the year, and I'm sure Washington football fans thought the same thing, this is a game that we thought we would win. Yeah, and there were not many that we thought going in that we, said to ourselves, we're probably going to win this game. This game, more so than any other, is a game we think that we should think that we're going to win. Because when you look at our schedule, at Washington's obviously more challenging than when we're at home. And then obviously at Cincinnati, that's probably the next closest thing. Burrows look decent, and it's on the road. This is the game, probably we're going to be one of the only games we're going to be favored all year. It may be the only game we're going to be favored all year. Maybe we're favored at Washington. Maybe we're favored at Cincinnati coming out of the bye. But this is a game the New York Giants absolutely should win. And when you look at this Washington football team, they're horrible. Even on both sides of the ball. The defense looked really good Week 1. Since then, they've been atrocious. I think they've given up the 21st most yards or points in football, whatever it is, and that's off of a very strong Week 1 performance against Philadelphia. The New York Giants defense has been better than theirs, and their offense last week looked downright pathetic, and that was after they made the quarterback change with Dwayne Haskins. Well, that didn't work out very well. Allen got a bit banged up. I think he's going to be playing this game. Alex Smith came in. He looked completely lost. They had 108 yards of total offense. Now, the one thing I will say, Allen could move a little bit, as could Alex Smith. And I think they'll come out with a conservative game plan. I think they'll try to control the tempo. But the way they've been running the football with Gibson, who I think is a pretty good running back, he only had 38 yards on the ground last week and 69 as a team the week before. I think the New York Giants should do a good job stuffing the run and forcing them to throw on third down. And I think the New York Giants should be able to put up points on this defense. Now, of course, when you think about Washington, you think about the pass rush. You think about Chase Young, who has 2.5 sacks on the season. You think about Montez Sweat, who has 2. So combined, they have 4.5 sacks in the first 5 games this year, which is pretty good. But outside of Week 1, they haven't done much damage. But they're definitely going to pose a threat to what has been a major weakness for the New York Giants going into this game so far, 5 weeks through the season. And that, of course, is the offensive line and the tackle position specifically. I actually think the interior part of the line has started to play better for the New York Giants. It's why you've started to see them get a push in the run game. Now, Gates hasn't played that great. I think Hernandez is starting to get better. I think Zeitler's played pretty well outside of Week 1, maybe Week 2. You've started to see him get a groove. But Andrew Thomas, in my opinion, has had his worst performance of the year last week, in which he just completely whipped on a number of blocks, one of which caused the fumble recovery for a touchdown. And that is going to be the premier matchup going into this game. The guy that a lot of Giants fans wanted to tank for, Chase Young, and the guy that we drafted because we couldn't draft Chase Young because we know we're going to need to block him for the next 10 to 15 years. I expect these two to be matched up for a long time against one another, and I'm sure it'll be highlighted throughout this contest. Andrew Thomas has to do a much better job, and the Giants have to do whatever they can to help him. Chip block, double team, whatever, but that will be a major storyline in this football game, and they're going to need to give Daniel Jones time to throw the football. But if he has time, Daniel Jones has no excuses not to rip this defense apart. Like I said, they've given up 30 points or more each of the last 3 contests, and you could throw on them. Last week, The Rams threw for 300 yards on them. You could throw against them. You could run against them, something the New York Giants have improved on. Each of the last 4 weeks, Washington has given up 129 yards or more on the ground. So that's definitely a weakness of theirs as well. I expect the New York Giants to do what they've tried to do each of the last 2 weeks, which is establish the ground game and try to set up big plays for Daniel Jones. Last week, I was encouraged by how the New York Giants seemingly opened it up a bit. I need to see more of it this week. And I know when we think about Rivera, when we think about that pass rush, we're scared of Washington. I'm not scared of this defense. You're giving up 30 points to Cleveland, Arizona, Baltimore, and the Rams. Now, granted, those are much better offenses than we have. I'm not expecting to put up 30, but I expect to put up 20 to 24 points against Washington. And I don't think that offense, unless we give them opportunities with turnovers and things like that, should be able to put up more than 14 against this New York Giants defense. I see no reason why a Giants fan shouldn't go into this game with expectations that we should win this football game. Now, am I expecting Daniel Jones to go out there and throw 3 or 4 touchdowns? It would be nice. It would get a lot of pressure off of him. Everybody is talking about tanking and moving on from him, and he certainly hasn't looked good, in a lot of these games, in a lot of these situations. It would be nice. I just want to win any way, shape, or form, and to me, that means picking up third downs, which they've gotten much better at, controlling the clock, which they've gotten much better at. They've won the time of possession each of the last 2 weeks. I can't remember the last time the New York Giants won time of possession 2 weeks in a row, and it was against some pretty good opponents, obviously with the Rams and the Cowboys. So I expect them to do that. I expect them to hopefully convert on third down, something they did over 50% of the time last week. And if they do that, and Daniel Jones doesn't fumble the football, if we could protect him, the Giants should win. They should get a win, and then we'll be playing Philadelphia 3 or 4 days later. This game is a highly pressured football game for everyone in the New York Giants organization. If they lose this game, Dave Gettleman, in my opinion, will be gone. And I'm not saying he's going to be fired after the game. He might. 0-6. The ownership's going to probably do something sooner than later if the New York Giants keep losing football games. And I think Gettleman will be the odd man out. So for Gettleman's sake, they better win this football game to have any opportunity to keep his job after this year, in my opinion. Because when you look at the rest of the schedule, where are the wins coming from? From Daniel Jones' perspective, and maybe they won't move on from him at the end of the year. We don't know that. We got to see how he progresses over these last 11 games. But if you lose to Washington at home, then you're off to a 3-15 start with 2 of your 3 wins coming against Washington, a year in which they were atrocious. The other coming in against Tampa Bay, a game in which you shouldn't have won. They missed 3 field goals. He's got to get a win this week. This is a huge week for Daniel Jones and Dave Gettleman. And then if they could double that up with a win on Thursday against Philadelphia, that's when you start to get some of the pressure off of Daniel Jones' back. But it ain't going away until the New York Giants win some football games. And this was the first game all year, in my opinion, that as a New York Giant fan, you should go into this game expecting nothing less than a win. I've talked about getting, what some may consider moral victories, improvement, whatever you want to call it, the first 5 weeks. You went up against the Bears, who were 4-1. You went up against the Rams, who went to a Super Bowl 2 years ago, and I think they're 4-1. You went up against the 49ers, who went to the Super Bowl last year and blew us out, even though they were banged up. There were excuses in those games not to win those football games. The Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously a very good football team. They're undefeated. There's no excuses not to win this football game. I don't want to compete. I want to win. And I don't care if the score is 3-0. Of course, I want to see points. I want to win. Get a win. I am sick of losing. We cannot get off to an 0-6 start. If you do, well, the pressure is just going to build and build and build, and we can't have that. I don't want to continue to talk about losses. This is a game where the New York Giants should win. When I looked at the schedule at the beginning of the year, I said maybe we could split with the Eagles. We should at least split with Washington. Maybe we could sweep them, and there's a good chance we could beat Cincinnati. And outside of that, it's hard to find wins the rest of the way. This is a game New York Giants got to find a way to get a W. Daniel Jones has to go out there, he has to perform, and he has to carry his team to a win. His job might depend on it. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.